my life. It comes in my life. It comes in my life. So the question today is, how do blind people feel? So blind people feel the world in many ways, physically, emotionally, and through other senses. So we say vision is just one way human experience life. When it's absent, the brain relies more heavily on other senses. Okay. So we say the first thing we have to talk about is touch. To touch. It is touching. If you have once seen blind people, you see that they try to touch wherever they are moving using their hands. They explore objects, they explore the textures and the shapes of objects. The textures and the shapes of objects. Okay. The reading of braille, touching. Braille. Braille is this thing that the blind people use to read. A system to raise dots filled with the fingertips. So when somebody is blind, you touch, you touch. And then feeling surfaces with a cane or feet to detect obstacles and and ground changes. You see, when they're moving, they use the white stick to check. So hearing often hearing. The next thing now is hearing. Hearing often becomes highly trained. Blind people may notice subtle echoes and sound directions to understand space. Recognize people by voice or footsteps. Yes, I've once noticed this thing. You can sit like this, and a blind man will know. A blind man will know somebody speaking from outside. You understand now? A blind man will know. He will hear somebody speaking from outside, and will just know that is this person? Is this person? Yeah. You will just know that is this person. You just know that is this person talking. Yes, there was one blind man who used to welcome to my life, subscribe and share. Welcome. So we are talking how blind people do feel. So we're talking now about touch because sometimes the blind people they need to touch everything. They touch everything, even with their sticks. And then hearing. The blind people, they measure, they notice subtle, small echoes, anything that echoes, the blind man will hear, and the direction of the sound. You can be sitting, you will not know the direction of the sound, but a blind man will know. They recognize people by their voices and footsteps. There was even a time that I went to one blind center. I went to a blind center, and there were blind children. The blind center where they keep blind children. So I went to this blind center. Those children had to wash their dresses. I was looking at them. They washed their dresses, and each one was going and spreading the dresses without meeting with the other blind person. They bypass issue. A blind man will not even jam with you. I was looking at them. Each one was going and spreading on the lawn outside, and they were spreading the dresses. When it started raining, they went outside to collect their dresses themselves. Nobody will go and pick another person's dress. It means that when somebody is already blind, the hearing and feeling senses are too uh, 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 are overdeveloped. And then some people even learn human echolocation, similar, like bats. Bats. The bats are blind, and some people they have some blind people start behaving like bats. They know the location, the sound. It starts sounding like an echo in them, and you see them easily dictating wherever you are. And then smell. There is one blind. There is one blind, and he would just pick my name. He would just call my name, and I used to sometimes the way I walk past him, he will call my name. And sometimes, maybe sometimes you might think that some blind people are lying, that they are not blind. They are blind. It's just that the other senses are developed, are far developed. And then they smell a lot. Sometimes you can pass and a blind man will just call your name, identify your perfume. A blind man will identify you by your perfume. You just pass and they will call your name. And then sometimes a blind man will say, hey, there's smoke around. That this place is smoky. They're burning something somewhere. And some will even say, very soon it will rain. It's like this, they're smelling something. Okay. Blind people always build their mental maps by remembering steps and landmarks. Sometimes when a blind person, when a blind man is already used to a house, is already used to a building, they can just leave from the kitchen to the bathroom, from the bathroom to the toilet, they just go. It's because they easily master the landmarks. They easily master the landmarks. Okay. And sometimes they use the sounds or airflow to know where they are. Emotional experiences. Emotionally, blind people feel same range of feelings and everyone else. Yes, there is something that some people used to think that maybe a blind man cannot be angry. No, they can be angry. Blind people can get angry as you. They can be happy as you. Blind people can be happy as you. They can be excited as you, and they can even fall in love as everyone else. A blind man can fall in love as everyone else. So don't just think that, oh, because this person is blind, you can maltreat the person or you can do anything. A blind man can fall, a blind man can be frustrated. When sometimes when I sit, I imagine, they say when you sit, you imagine the way a place looks like. Means sometimes in life you can go blind. You can go blind. You just experience the way blind people experience. You just have the feeling as if you're a blind person. They say you have to go to a different country. You start imagining that country. Remember, you are already in that country as a blind man. Because I usually tell people, once in your life you are blind. You are blind in life once. Because you start imagining, they say you go to the market, you have to buy a blue dress. You have to imagine, you imagine something you means you're a blind man, you're a blind person. That's how blind people look like. Many tools help with daily life, such as technology tools. Many tools help in daily life, like the phone, like the phone. The phone can help blind people. Okay, there is this a blind person. There was a time I met with there was this blind person where I was growing. He used to go and grate cassava. He used to go and grate cassava. when it comes to greater cassava, as he's sitting, they already put the cassava in a basin for him to measure it, for him to grind it, and he will give you the price. You will say, I will grind this cassava for maybe 3,000. And as he's grinding the cassava, maybe you start hiding and putting some inside the basket. I get what I'm saying. You start hiding and putting the cassava inside the basket. That blind person, after grinding, he the ones that you added, he would leave them until we started arguing that this person is not blind. We argued. We said, no, we are not sure this person is blind. But the truth is that person is blind. Person is blind. So, and this man used to go and farm near the river. He goes near the river to go and farm. And when he goes near the river, go and farm, sometimes we're afraid that he will fall. He might fall inside the river, but he was just doing his things. This guy, blind guy, where we're growing, I used to say, well, one day I should work as an ophthalmologist, I should work as an eye nurse, I should work as a surgeon to really help the blind people, to really see how they feel when they are blind. Some people used to think that blind people have superhuman senses instead of their brains become better. Instead, it's because their brain becomes better. Even when you are sick, when you are sick and you sleep on your bed, close your eyes. At that moment, you can consider yourself as blind, and you realize that you start thinking about so many things. You start thinking about the errors you made. You start thinking about the errors you made in life. Maybe you think that maybe I could do things like this instead of like this. If you want, I can explain what blind people actually see in their mind. This surprises many people. It surprises many people what the blind man see. As I was saying, I say, when you go to your mind, when you see, imagine something. Just imagine, they say you have to go to a different country. Just imagine that you have to go to a different country, and maybe you are transferred. When you are working, you are transferred to a different country. And you've never seen that country, you start imagining. At that moment, you are a blind man. At that moment, you are blind according to the way you are behaving, according to you are thinking about that country. And some people even ask if blind people do dream. Do blind people dream? Of course they dream. Of course, blind people dream because when you are sleeping, you close your eyes. When you are sleeping, you are a blind man already. You are sleeping at that moment. Uh, 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 um, I asked a blind this a question that somebody asked a blind man. How do you feel now that you are blind? Is that the type of question you should ask a blind man? You see, but sometimes you think that when they are blind like that is anything. They feel normally as you are feeling. So what blind people actually see in their mind, they see many things in their mind. As I've said, they could even transfer you to a place where you have never gone to. Or you could just sit and say, but how does a different country look like? For example, you are in Cameroon, you start imagining how Germany looks like. You know, excitement can make you to think about so many things. You start imagining that when I go to this place, I'll go and fetch water. You don't know that you have made yourself blind at that moment. You are a blind person at that moment, isn't it? Okay. Now we can talk about what blind people see depends on how and when they became blind, which is true, isn't it? How blind people see, for example, if people who were born blind, my God, people who were born blind, how do they hmm, how do they see, how do they imagine is the question. So they say try to see out of your able. So put your hand under here and see if you can see anything. So if they say, what do you think? They say somebody is born blind. Does the person have God? You are born blind. I don't know if when they say red color, what does a blind man really imagine a red color to look like? When they say black color, they say black, oh, they say no, they say blue, they say yellow, they say green. My God. How does somebody who is born blind, how does how does the person really imagine this? Because no, you can imagine that the person who is blind is in a different world, and you who is seeing you are in a different world. Yes, the person who is blind, welcome, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for joining my life. So they say somebody who is blind, you could say this thing is blue, this thing is green, this thing is red. Somebody who is blind from birth, how would the person, how would the person really know all these colors? But the people who became blind later in life, they are different. The people who were born blind are completely different from the people who became blind later in life. So sometimes people who lost vision later, for example, from diseases like what? Glaucoma or retinitis pigmentosa may experience things like darkness or dimness. You see, such people they can say places are some people who see a bit, they can say places are big that completely people who are blind from glaucoma, they will only see darkness and dimness. They see everywhere is dark, everywhere is dim, but they already saw the colors. Welcome, welcome. They already saw the colors. So people with glaucoma, blurry shapes. When you are blind, oh, sorry, from glaucoma, you can see blurry shapes. Places are blurred. You can see blurry shapes. You can see flashes of light. If you are blind from disease like glaucoma, you can see flashes of light. And then some people see from glaucoma, they see tunnel vision. You see just in a hole, you see in a hole, you see tunnel vision, and then the vision could be patchy. You just see some small, small place. Okay. Sometimes it depends on the cause of the blindness. If you are blind from birth, okay, it's different. But if you are visual, okay, visual imagination, people who once had sight can still picture things in their mind, like faces. But if you who is seeing, maybe you see somebody, maybe 10 years back you saw somebody, and now you are blind, and you don't see the person again. You can only recognize them by what? By their voices. By their voices. By their voices, yes. People born blind usually don't have visual images, but they can imagine things. How can somebody who is born blind imagine something you can touch? You can touch and say, no, this is that computer that I saw yesterday. Because there are some parts on it that they will touch and they will know. And then from sound, you know, when you are blind, you can get sound. And then, but now I usually ask that deaf, dumb, and blind. There's a question that they used to ask people that when somebody is deaf, dumb, and blind, and you want to tell the person something, how will you do it? You touch the person's hand, you write on the person's hand, you touch, what will you do? When somebody is deaf, is dumb, and is blind, how will you do to touch? To tell the person, for example, you want to tell the person that, if you say, come and eat, you can touch the mouth now. You can touch the person's mouth that come and eat. Then the person will know that, oh, I think that's the only thing that I can do. Or you touch the, how will you do? If somebody is deaf, dumb, and then blind, how will you do to pass information? For example, that person, maybe the person lost the father or the mother. How are you going to tell the person that the person is not there? It's difficult, isn't it? That's why we have to take care of blind people very much. Okay, dreams. Blind people can also dream. They dream a lot, isn't it? That's why I was saying that blind people can dream. As I say, blind people dream because you, even when you are sleeping, the people who are not blind, when you are sleeping, you can easily, when you are sleeping, you can easily, you also dream, isn't it? Do you dream with the eyes open? No. Mhm. You don't dream with the eyes open. You dream with your eyes closed. It means that blind people also dream. And so people who lost, they have said later in life, in many years, they see images in dream, isn't it? But people who are born blind, they always get things like sound, touch, emotions, and movement. I don't think they can even start imagining that the people who are born blind can start imagine that this is red, this is blue. You cannot start imagining it. Mm. Some people blind see darkness or light. So some people, some see blurry or partial images. These are people who are blind from things like glaucoma. But when you are born blind, you don't see anything. People born blind usually don't see anything at all. Okay. So people who are born blind don't see anything at all. So you who is watching, welcome. What do you think about what happens when people are born blind? So as I was saying, our topic for today is how do blind people, how do people feel when they are blind? If you are just joining my life now, I was talking how blind people feel. Blind people feel the world in many different ways, physically, emotionally, and through their other senses. So we say vision is just one way human beings experience life. When it's absent, the brain lies more heavily on the other senses. We know the other senses. So we'll say the first sense is what? Touch. To touch something is very important. That's the other sense. To touch something is very important. So touch becomes a major way to understand the environment. When you are blind, either from birth or maybe as you are growing, when you are blind, the other senses become very important. Again, I would say touch is very important. For example, when you meet somebody and then the person is touching, like this, some blind people can just touch people like this and they know the people. It's true. No? Yes. A blind man can just meet you, touch you. I will know that, hey, this person. You meet you and touch you, I will know that this person, and that will be good. And the touching becomes the most important thing to understand the environment. Okay, when to use the hands to explore objects and textures and shapes. For example, when let's say I'm blind, I touch this, your finger, I will know that is this finger. I touch this one, touch this one. I touch your thumb, I will know that this is your thumb. Isn't it? That's what the blind people they do. So they use their hands to explore shapes. And another question that I will ask is, what if you are blind and you don't have hands? What will you do? That's a question now. That if you are blind and you don't have hands, what will you do? How will you feel the places with your legs? How will you feel with your legs? I'm talking to you. How will you feel? How will you feel the places? Because now we're talking about touching. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for their hearts. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. We're talking about how blind people feel, because this is a question that most people ask: how do blind people feel? And then we say, when a blind man, when somebody is already blind, you can be blind from birth, or you can be blind along the line when you are growing. And how do you feel? We say now you have other senses. You can start, welcome, welcome, thank you, thank you. So when you are blind, the other senses can develop, like the sense of touch. You can start touching using your hands, and then the blind people they read using a brace, a system of raised dots filled with the fingers. You start using brace. You start filling surfaces with a cane or fit to dictate obstacles. When if you see the way blind people are walking, you see the way blind people are walking, you see they try to touch, they try to use the legs, they try to use even the cane. You can it as somebody working in the eye department, you can easily dictate somebody who was blind from birth and somebody who got blind after maybe blind after maybe 10 years, after maybe 20 years. You can differentiate between them, because the person who got blind from birth is just going smoothly. Those people, the people who are blind from birth just go smoothly. But the people who are blind, maybe from glaucoma, from cataracts, they are blind. You would know them because they fumble a lot. They fumble a lot. Before you see the way they are walking, is they fumble a lot. And hearing, the sense of hearing. I have a one blind man who comes to my clinic. When he comes, immediately he hears my voice, he calls my name. And not only me, there are other blind people who call the names of people. They just meet with you and you just see they call your name. Because maybe you said something somewhere, or you laughed. Sometimes you can just laugh, they can say something, you laugh, and a blind man will just call your name and say, how are you? And when you look like that, maybe some people start thinking that, oh, this person is pretending. Yeah, oh, they are blind. They are blind. So, because blind people can easily notice very subtle echoes, in a way that when a blind man can easily hear a sound which you who is seeing, you will not hear. You will not hear it because you are concentrated in looking, and so the other senses are not getting. Okay. And then they can use they can recognize people by the voice and the footsteps. There are some blind people you can walk past them. For example, in my clinic, when I'm there, when a blind man walks, you can walk past a blind man and the blind man will call your name. I used to doubt how the blind man will really know that this person is walking and passing. Okay, she Yvette, when a sense is lost, the other ones become sharper. Yes, thank you. Chi Yvette, welcome. Lost, the other ones become sharper, which is true. It's true, Chivet. Chivet, thank you, welcome. The other senses become sharper. That's all what now I was talking about a hearing, the sense of hearing. That some blind people they can only get the footsteps. I mean, you're walking and then just you're walking, they'll tell you that is this person. And then the sense of smell and taste. Sometimes some blind people they recognize a cafe by a smell. Even yourself, you who is seeing, you can easily recognize it. But no, the blind man will recognize it far better because, as Chi has already said, when a sense is lost, the other ones become sharper. Thank you, Chivet. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for supporting me. The other ones become sharper. Okay, and now the next thing is you can identify a blind man can identify someone by their perfume. It's true. Sometimes even you who is seeing, you already mastered some people by their perfumes. They talk about on life. You need to delete that. So already mastered by their perfumes. Because sometimes you see somebody is coming and they say, this person has passed. It's the same as blind people. Unless you change your perfume or unless you change your pomade, a blind man will not notice you. So, and then some blind people they easily notice the environment. For example, there could be fire somewhere, there could be a place burning, and then the blind man will just tell you, "Hey, this person, I'm getting smell this way. I'm getting smell this way." Mhm. That's how a blind man does it. Okay, there can be food. There are some foods that have particular a peculiar smell. For example, you could smell something like conchave, and then somebody will say, "Hey, they prepared this." And even in food, you can cook food, and they don't give a blind man meat, and a blind man will tell you, because the blind man will smell. The blind man will smell that there was meat in this food. I am not giving me because the thing will smell in that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, the blind man will smell even smell that there was meat in this food. Yes, because sometimes you put food because you think that people are blind, and they say, "No, let me just put food into them without meat." They will tell you, that this food like that you prepare with meat, you did not give us the meat. And then sometimes the environment, the sometimes the environment could be maybe dusty, and a blind man will know that no, there is dust. A blind man will know that there is dust. There is serious dust already from the way the environment will be. The person will be smelling the environment, and then there is this mental marking. Blind people often build mental maps of places, remembering their steps, turns, and landmarks. Sometimes like in my hospital, a blind man will come and is coming to buy maybe eye drops. They just go straight to the pharmacy or they just go straight to somewhere, especially a blind man. Thank you for the ads. Thank you for the stickers. Thank you. You see, a blind man will just come to the consulting room without you leading the blind man. You just take the card, come to the consulting room, somebody does things, and then you think that, hey, this man is not seeing. It's supposed to have somebody who is holding their hand and doing it. It's because that person has what we call mental mapping. That person has mapped the place. It's like the person has drawn a map, the map of that place. A patient will come and then will go out, will go to the reception, collect the card, gives history, comes. A patient, this one is for patients who have been blind, patients who have been coming to your hospital. When there are some blind patients who have been coming to our hospital, they've come several times in such a way that when they just come, they go to the reception, they take their card themselves. They take their card themselves and straight to the consultation room for their eyes to be checked on the machines. When they come, they go straight to the slit lamp, they sit, you check their eyes, and after checking their eyes, they get up and they are going back to the pharmacy to go and buy their eye drops. And sometimes say, but this patient has no carer, nothing. How is the patient just navigating? It's because that patient has the mental mapping of your place. The patient has the mental mapping of your place and the emotional experience too. Now the fifth is the what we call emotional experience. Emotionally, blind people feel the same range of feelings as everyone else, which is true. I think is if a blind man loses a child, it's the same feeling. Because some people think that, okay, since the blind man has not been seeing the child, and maybe when the child dies, the blind man will not cry. Thank you for sending me love. Thank you. It's not the blind man will not cry. It's the same. It's the same thing. Whether you are blind or you are somebody, the pain is the same. And the joy when something happens. I think if you're a blind man's child passes exams and people are happy, that blind man will be happy. That blind man will be very happy, like the way other people are happy. So this is what Rifo Augustine. Hi, hi Rifo Augustine, welcome. Thank you for joining my live. Rifo Augustine, welcome. Thank you for joining my live. Augustine, as we're saying, I said when somebody is blind, the person also have emotional experience. You can also have emotional experience as somebody who is seeing. It doesn't mean that maybe if you are blind for 10 years and you have not seen a child who is 7 years in your family and that child dies, you will not feel it. You feel it very much. Not been seeing the child, but having that child in that man too can love. Some people think that blind people don't fall in love. Blind people fall in love. Let me tell you, you see, sometimes a blind man will reject an ugly person and go to a very beautiful person, and then you see, because they have this, they have that feeling. They have that, when they say love is blind. So people usually say, you don't love people according to the way you see them. Sometimes not the way you see them. You love them according to what comes from your mind. Okay, blindness doesn't change human emotion, which is true. Blindness does not change human emotion. When you are blind, you just know that your emotions remain the same. Blindness just changes your emotions. If you insult a blind man, the blind man will be angry. So it doesn't mean that when somebody is blind, it means that the person can never be angry. Okay. So now, what are some of the technology and tools that blind people can use? You see, many tools help daily in the life of blind people. Screen readers, There are some screen readers, phone accessibility features like voice over. Sometimes when some people say, "Oh, why should we give a phone to a blind?" It is very important. It is very important to give a phone to a blind person because this voice over that is in phones. They are very important. Sometimes like this. There is the big Z. Sometimes you just see it in your phone. You just pass over it. You don't mind it. But somebody who is blind will tell you that that particular function is very important. Okay. So if what somebody usually asks, what do blind people usually what do blind people usually see? Or what do blind people usually, let's say, imagine? Okay, let me tell you, there's something that I said earlier before. I said you once in your life you are blind. Once in your life you are blind. For example, if they say you have been transferred, you are working somewhere and you have been transferred to somewhere, you've never gone there. You've never you've just heard about the place for the first time. You start imagining how that place is. You should just know that you're already living there like a blind man. Yes. Because when they say that you have been transferred to a different town and then you are sleeping, don't sleep, don't sleep, just sleep alive. Look here. So you have been transferred, they say you have been transferred to a different town and you don't even know how the town looks like. And then you have to go there and they start working there. You start imagining how that town looks like. Maybe the roads are like this. How would the water? You must imagine. And at that moment, you are a blind man. At that moment, you are a blind man already living in that town. You're a blind person already living in that town. And then sometimes you talk with people on the phone, and you have never even bothered to do maybe a video call. You're just talking with somebody on the phone. The person says, "Okay, I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to see you like this," and then you just speak with the person on the phone. You start imagining how that person look like. Remember, you are already with that person, living like a blind man. You are a blind man at that moment. As you're imagining, you are already a blind man until when you see that person. So that's how blind people feel. So if you want to know how blind people feel, think about a place which you have never gone to and start imagining. That's how blind people feel. Especially now, we are talking about the blind people who have never seen, who have once seen, and then maybe they got blind because of glaucoma or maybe cataracts, mature cataract, or maybe retinal detachment or any other thing they were seeing before and then they got blind. That's what I mean by you sitting and imagining about a place. You sitting and imagining about somebody. You only hear the voice. Somebody calls you on the phone and you hear the voice. You start imagining that person is a very huge person. You are already sitting near the person and like a blind man until when you see the person, you say, is that how this person look like? Mm. Is that how this person look like? Don't sleep here. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Yes. And then when you are asked to go to somewhere, maybe they say they brought a new, maybe a new I'm still talking about people who got blind along the line. They say there's a new, maybe a new material for people, and you start imagining it. As you're imagining it, know that you're already in your blind mood. You're already in the blind mode, trying to imagine things. When you imagine things, you are blind. But when you see them. So now, another example is you just sit somewhere in your room and you just get the smell of food. You don't know whether there's salt inside, there's maggi or there's anything. You just start imagining, you just start salivating. You have already activated your blind mood. You are blind at that moment. That's how blind people feel. That's how blind people feel. They imagine things. And the only difference between you and a blind person is when you then see it, they know that, oh, this is how the thing is. Now, what about those who are blind from birth? What are they imagining? That's the question. Those who are blind from birth, because what are people are blind from birth? Some people are born even without eyes. Some people are born without eyes. Some people, I don't know what they are seeing. So people who were born blind, most people who are born most people who are blind from birth don't see darkness or black. They don't see them anything. They just sit. Now the question is, do they imagine something? No, no. They don't see anything black, white. They don't know whether there's something as red. I mean, people who are born, they don't know whether there's something as red. They don't know if there's something as blue. They don't know. There's something as brown. So, so what they can only do, I think, when somebody is blind, the only thing that person can do is to touch. Because sometimes you see somebody will call the child, and maybe the person is, you are blind from birth, and then you get married, then you have children. Maybe by name, you can call a child by name. When the child comes, you touch the child, you know that, oh, this child is a big child now. This child is very big now. There is one blind man, there's one blind man who used to walk along our street. They said he was born blind because when I was born, he was born before I was born. He was born blind. Time when he greets you, he touches you, he say, "Oh, you are big." So I think that's how blind people who are blind from birth, their brains build understanding of touch, sound. And sometimes the sounds that people make and people who are born from birth, they already know. And they smell. The people who are born blind, they smell very much. They smell very much. And then memory, the people who are born blind, they memorize a lot. I used to see this. There are some children, some blind children, who go to government secondary schools. They do better than people who see. And I usually say, oh, when you are blind, maybe it's because the people who see are being distracted. And then the blind people, they concentrate in learning, maybe listening to what the teacher is saying, and then they concentrate. Okay, now let me tell you how some people see, some people blind from some diseases see. For example, somebody who is blind from glaucoma, how does that person see the places? The places sometimes look, there is darkness or there's dimness of the environment. Somebody with glaucoma, there is dimness in the environment, and that person sees tunnel vision. The person cannot see, cannot have peripheral vision. If you watch one of my videos, you will see I spoke about that peripheral vision issue. You see, people cannot see, they can, when they put their hands like this, they cannot see. They only see, they only see straight. And if that central vision starts going off, you see they are in darkness, or they are in dim light, and then they have blurry shapes. The places can be blurry, can be very blurred, and then sometimes they have what we call flashes of light. Sometimes you just see flashes of light. It's like light has just come and gone on them. And then sometimes they see partial vision. You can see the way they can see something. They can look at something and say this thing is short because they've not seen part of it. They can see something and they say this thing is short because they've not seen part of it. Okay. So visual imagination, as you can imagine it, it depends on the cause of your blindness, the cause of the blindness. I think if somebody is blind from glaucoma and you from cataract, will never person knows that maybe one day they'll operate my eye and I will see again. But people from glaucoma they learn a lot. And then now I will say people who are born blind, they can touch, they can get sounds, and then they can describe. Now we talk about people, whether blind people do dream. That's what we're talking about. Whether blind people do dream. People who lost their sight in life may imagine, may have images or may see things in dreams. For example, if you have been seeing throughout maybe your life and you got blind at the age of 70, I think at that time you'll be having dreams. You'll be seeing what, or maybe the things are from young age. When we're young, those are the things that will be coming to you. And now let me compare the people who are born blind and the people who got blind along the line. I think people who are born blind, they look sharper, they look cleverer than people who got blind along the line. By the way, if somebody is say 50 years and develop glaucoma, and maybe before the age of 60, that person is blind, that person will still be in denial. The person will not still believe that, oh, I'm blind, and will still try to fill in the gap, will still try to fumble around. You will not know that truly you're already blind. But somebody who is born blind, the person knows that no, I've never seen. It's the same as I think you who is seeing and the person born blind, it's the same thing. You're in a different world, and that person is in a different world. Welcome, welcome. Like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, please. Like, subscribe, share to support my channel. Thank you. Welcome. As I was saying, I say that it's blind people were in life, look, were in life. Well, don't sleep. So we say blind people, people who are born blind, and people people who are born blind. The difference between somebody who is born blind and somebody who is blind, maybe along the line as you are growing, and then you get blind. So I was trying to say that the people who are born blind are cleverer than people who go blind along the line. Maybe in the course of growing, they go blind. And then yes, there is one blind man who there is one blind man who was staying in his house, and every evening when he lights a lamp and keeps the lamp on his table. Every evening he lights a lamp This blind man was staying in a house and had a bush lamp. There is this lamp which usually had a bush lamp. So when in the evening, you light that lamp and keep it on his table. And one day somebody went to him and asked him, "Why do you keep a lamp on your table every evening, every evening?" And were, what he said was really wonderful. He said, "I am keeping this lamp for people who see. The lamp is not for me. Because when you come to my house, you will not, if I don't turn on this lamp, you who is somebody who is seeing, you will not see me." And that was really a wonderful answer, because if you go to a blind man's house, you will not see the blind man until when there is a lamp. And when there is a lamp, before you see the blind man. Another blind man was moving on the road. Another blind man was moving on the road and with a lamp. He lighted his lamp and he was going somewhere in the evening with the lamp. And when the people come in, they said, "Hey, but you are blind. Why are you having a lamp?" And then he said, "If I was not having a lamp, you would not have seen me. And I just lighted this lamp for you to see your way, for the people who are seeing." So what I usually tell my people is that if a blind man can light the lamp for you to see, therefore, you who is seeing, you who is an eye doctor, you who is an eye nurse, you who is a surgeon, you have to show them the light also by taking good care of them, by treating them well, by treating a blind man well. It doesn't mean that when somebody is blind, the person is no more a human being. So by treating them well, you have to also show them the light from inside. You must show the light from inside. So now the next thing is, welcome, welcome. Now the next thing is, if you want, I can also explain something fascinating, how the brain of the blind people rewires itself to visual part of the brain. Okay, now if you are if you meet a blind person on the way, how will you know that this person is blind? Most of the times, you don't even need to they don't need to tell you that somebody is blind. People who are blind, again, I'll repeat, people who are blind from birth, they are different from. This one, okay. We are on live, and if there are questions now, you are sleeping. You're messing, you're messing up in life. Okay. So what blind people see, okay, they say people who were born blind, we say most people who were born blind from birth don't see darkness or black. Yes, which is true. They usually don't see anything at all because their brain has never received any visual information. Okay. So now we will have to next time I have to teach people now on how to lead the blind people. When blind people are walking, how do you lead them? You don't start showing the whole world to see that this person is blind. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining my life. Please like, subscribe, and share. Let everybody come and enjoy my story. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you for joining me today. Bye bye. See you. See you next time. Bye. That's the end of my